Hi there, everybody. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Today I'm really excited because I have invited my very dear friend, Claudette Dean, to be with me today to have a conversation, an organic conversation about what happens to your creativity once you have undertaken shadow work. So it's a great, timely and meaty and juicy topic. So we're going to dive right in and we'll get started. And what I'd like to do for those people that may just be getting to know you, Claudette, it would be really wonderful if you would just kind of give an overview about who you are and what you do, and then we can go from there.
Well, thank you, Julie, for having me on. It should be a very interesting conversation. I have been working as a visual artist since the mid-1990s for quite a while. I've also done some writing. I have published a book a couple of years ago called Smelling Roses, A Tale of Connection and Transformation. And all of my work is spiritually based. So I'd like to say that. And yeah, that's basically it. Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to remember before I came on how many years it is that you and I have known each other. I think it's at least 10 or 12 or 15. I can't remember exactly, but
right.
Do you know?
It's from my Lumiere exhibition. So that would be, let's see, 2010. So about 10, 12 years. Yeah.
Oh, cool,
yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was really intrigued about asking you to share with listeners is what happened to sort of propel you onto your creative and artistic path. Because I'm sure I remember you saying that you weren't a sort of a trained professional artist, so to speak, but all of that sort of creativity started to pour out of you. As your sort of spiritual path opened up. Is that correct?
Something like that. Yeah. As I think happens in every life, there comes a time where everything kind of goes up in the air and gets all messed up. And it's time, to get real about who you are and what you want. And the status quo is no longer working, although you may want it to. And at that time, it just kind of a very small little tugging at my midsection to be creative. I had no idea what it would mean. I think I started off painting on T-shirts. And I think, as I've mentioned before, I was watching the Today Show, and they had a lady on who was showing this book, drawing on the right side of the brain. And I thought, that's interesting. It kind of caught my attention. And then we were in Miami maybe a couple of weeks later, and we went in a bookstore and I saw the book. So immediately got the nudge to pick it up. And as I like to say, when I got home, I just devoured the whole book, because I really had no clue on how to see things as an artist or how to draw. And it kind of made me feel like, oh, okay, there's something happening here. And then I met Leo Brown, who's a local artist here at I think it was an opening of a building that my husband designed. We started chatting, and he gave me a couple of lessons in painting, because I had no idea even how to put paint on the brush. and after that, it just ignited the fire, and I just was in my studio as much as I could. And apart from maybe a workshop on sort of creative expression and a drawing week in Provincetown. Apart from that, everything that I've learned through trial and error in my studio, and
Wow.
just total dedication. And
Yeah.
It was something meant to be, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the thing is you're really prolific. I mean, I lost count of how many shows you've created or been a part of.
Yes.
But you've essentially been a practicing artist for more than 20 years, correct?
Yeah, it's about 1995, I think I had a first group showing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then the thing that I've seen with the themes that you explore, it's really about deepening into oneself, into your intuition, into your calling or
Mhm.
purpose, or however you want to put that.
Mhm.
Do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Well, as I can look back now, I think that my spiritual journey to awakening went hand in hand with my creative journey. My creative journey, my work really was a mirror for me. It just was my medicine, it was my altar, it was everything. So they went completely hand in hand. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then with your book Smelling Roses, which I really encourage listeners to read, because it's a fantastic story. It's kind of a love story, right, but with this very deep spiritual kind of orientation and understanding
Mhm.
about how to connect in with source, is how I would put it. But that was about 5 years ago you write that, I seem to
Not
recall. Was it?
well. It was published. I think it'll be 3 years.
Oh,
Actually,
three.
3 years
Oh,
ago, it's actually published, and it took me about 2 years to write it. Yeah.
okay. And can you speak about that? I mean, where in that sort of journey or process
Mhm.
did you, when you were doing your shadow work, for example,
Mhm.
how did that play out for you with
Mhm.
respect to the creative part? Because obviously there's a big movement, a big change away from painting as a professional artist and then being called to write something. And it's
Mhm.
quite a step, right?
It sure is, Julie. And there came a time where I wasn't drawn as much to be in my studio painting, and I knew there was something changing. And I think it was you that actually prompted me to start writing poetry for, I think it was my third solo show, and that's when I started actually writing. And they were complete love poems to the divine, as and I had no idea that was coming out of me. So, it told me stuff. Actually, the poetry was stronger than the paintings, I think, in that show. And then just was kind of lost for a while, feeling my way. And then I got invited to join a writers club. And I thought, well, to change up the energy, you should do something different. So I followed the nudge again, and I joined the writers club. And a couple meetings in, somebody gave a prompt, and I wrote a little story to share the following week with the ladies, and everyone liked it. And I just felt there was more to the story. And so I just continued writing the story, and it was pretty amazing, because it's really hard to explain where the story came from. And I think actually the book is also shadow work, and
Yeah.
that's how it's always happened for me. you know uh,
Mhm.
the actual creation or the creating is actually shadow work, and the book, I think, was as well. It just got dug a little deeper. And of course, the main character in the book channels messages from being from another dimension. And it was an amazing process. And I was amazed. I would finish a chapter and I think, wow, I didn't know that was going to happen. It was like a revelation to me. And the story just unfolded. So it was, you know, that's a creative process for me. I'm always surprised and marveled at it because I'm plugged in. I'm plugged into source when that happens, and it's like magic. And I
Yeah.
got the same thrill out of, or maybe even more, with writing the book, because it's, yeah. So again, thrown in the deep end. Everything I've done, I've been thrown in the deep end and kind of did what I had to do, and it happened.
Yes, yes. And also it's being comfortable with being thrown in the deep end and being in the unknown,
Hmm.
rather than trying to find some kind of like I guess clear validation or directive or whatever you want to call it, or something to hold on to. It's really about letting go of all of that and being comfortable in the unknown and diving in.
So true, Julie. And I've always been very adaptable at doing that. You know, my whole life I can look back and it's been everything I've done without really knowing anything about it and just following directives from wherever source and just doing what I had to do, you know, and
Yes.
it's following the golden thread is what it is, you know.
Yes.
It's absolutely that. And at every step of the way, I've made connections that were there when I needed them, that led me to the next thing, that led me to the next thing. And as you know, you have been one of those major connections, Julie, as I am sitting here now, and as I've been on, you know, Buddhist Biohacker, etc. This is where I'm at now, and I'm following the thread, continuing to do that. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and this is where the fun is, I think, and the excitement and the vitality and the joy. It's not knowing what's next and just saying yes. Obviously, it has to feel right, you know.
Yeah.
For us, but it's just saying yes, and even if there's some anxiety or uncertainty or whatever, just knowing and trusting that we'll be taken care of, we'll be shown the way, and all of those things.
Mm-hmm. The more it happens, the more you're comfortable because you know you're going to be okay. You know, this is something, it just gives you more and more confidence the more you do it and you trust in that because it's there and it's not going to let you down. Just do it. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. You know, and for those people that are joining in and watching, if you're not clear about what shadow work is, because we've been referencing shadow work. Shadow work is really about having the courage to meet and greet and acknowledge all those aspects of our personality and our psychological conditioning that we formerly thought of as being unpalatable, or we're afraid to show, or we're afraid to connect with and look at. And that includes fear and anxiety. Sometimes it can be things like self-loathing. It can be habitual patterns that we've learned, you know, as we were growing up, and all of those things. So it's really about meeting the darkness within our own being, which essentially prevents us from taking these leaps of faith and stepping into the unknown and working with the energy of what comes up out of that, you know, out of saying yes to that. So I don't know whether you would like to speak a little bit about how that's kind of shaped itself for you, Claudette, with respect to your own shadow work and what you had to kind of come up against. I'm sure some of those things came up when you were called to write your book or do your first exhibition or whatever, right? I'm sure some fear came up or anxiety. So
yeah, and I've been thinking about that because I don't think for me, at the time when my whole life was falling apart, that basically was my shadow dropping down all around me. I had been sweeping everything under the bed. There was no more room under the bed. And really that was my shadow looming in front of me. And what I did is I you know, creativity came in as my tool, I suppose, and my savior, although I didn't even know it. And if you look at my work, it's basically an autobiography, you know, and there's this, and even throughout my career as an artist, shadow aspects came up through the journey with people that were around me, situations I had to deal with, and you can see it in the work if you know. And there's one show in particular, you know, every piece kind of looks sad, and I looked at that and I said, oh my God, I didn't really intend for that, but there it was. You know, there's one painting called Lady in Red. I don't know if you've seen that one, Julie. It's a lady, she's all in red, but she's kind of sitting with her knees up. There's a balloon behind her, which should be joyous, but the balloon is kind of a brownish purple, and she's got a frown on her face. It's like, you know, you should be happy, but you're not, you know. And so for me, again, my creativity has been my tool to work, to do the shadow work, you know. yeah, it's just everything has gone hand in hand for me. And I think as far as creativity and having done the shadow work as well, I think that whatever comes up is more spontaneous once you've done shadow work. There is less planning
Yes.
around doing something. It's just kind of there and you just allow it,
Yeah.
so there's not a whole lot of emotional stuff that is behind everything. And the work exudes a certain energy, just not necessarily by what the image is, just by the energy, because it's clear, it's
Yes.
clear. It's
Yes. Yes.
clear.
Yes. I love what you just said. I think that really sums it up. Because when you've done your shadow work, there are no psychological obstacles
Yeah,
in the way
yeah.
while you're going through the process of creating something. Because before shadow work, there'll be these kind of uncertainties or these kind of manipulations to make sure it looks right, or it'll be received in the right way, or what will people think?
Yeah.
It's all that, or it's kind of trying to create something for sale, or whatever those stories are, right?
Mhm.
And then once all that is cleared away, then there's this beautiful free space that opens up, and it's really source
Mhm.
that is speaking through your writing, or source that speaks through your artwork. And I know that was certainly what I felt when I went to the exhibition, the first exhibition of yours that I went to,
Yeah.
which was that the Lumiere one?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
because I remember walking into that big space and just being hit by it. And I remember sort of having to take a breath,
Wow.
because it was evident in the work
Mhm.
that the place from which these paintings were arising was
Mhm.
source itself. And that's when I knew, oh, this artist has received Shaktipat, or awakening, or whatever you want to call that. And that was why I was interested in meeting you and having a conversation.
I remember it well, Julie. I remember it well because you questioned me about the lotuses, and I didn't really know the deep significance of it. But and that show was at the end of a period where I had done a lot of shadow work through the journey, and this was my first solo show in the Bahamas, and all of that. I remember painting for that show, and it was just pure joy. It just in my studio, and there was no, yeah, just pure ecstasy, really, and I think it showed in the work with the energy, and that was the first time we met. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I remember going home. And
Mhm.
I'll tell you a story that I never told you before, actually. What happened was, I was working at Lucario International School. Tony was at, another school, Sunland. We'd only got one vehicle.
Mhm.
So I said, I'd heard about your show. And I said to Tony, I'm going to get a ride to the gallery, and then I'll figure out how to get home there, right? So that's what happened. I hitched a ride there, and then I took a jitney to go back home.
Mhm.
And as soon as because Tony was still working, and all of that. So anyway, as soon as I got home, and then Tony came in, I said, Tony, whatever you do, you have to go and see Claudette Dean's exhibition, because it's extraordinary. I said, it's all lotuses and Shakti. So he said, oh, okay, cool, I'll go. Tony's like, oh, okay, I'll go. And then I don't know whether we went together or he went on his own, but true to Tony, I think he just kind of circled around, looked at everything, and then didn't say much to you. But it was very.
I remember it well, although I didn't know who Tony was. It was just kind of extraordinary that this fellow obviously came in on his lunch hour and just walked in, said hello, looked all around, and then just left.
And just left, right? That's
I found out it was, who it was, Tony. Yeah.
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 So,
Mhm.
but I'll always remember that the energy of it was really, really incredible.
Mhm.
And that was why it was so popular, and so many people wanted to go. And then I remember, I think I took 2 or 3 groups of students to go take a look at
Yeah.
the work.
Yeah.
and then had them talk about what they were seeing and perceiving and feeling. So then that opened up conversations about, you know, what the lotuses represented. And I was hearing all these conversations about the chakras and all this stuff these kids were telling me that, you know, they wouldn't normally speak about, you know, what it meant for them. So it's really, really profound.
Yeah.
And essentially that's what you've been doing your whole kind of creative and artistic life, right?
Yes. Yeah, for sure, Julie, you know, and I kind of feel, and I'm just thinking about this just now, is that, you know, I still enjoy painting, and it's different now, though. And I think it's because it actually was my tool for awakening, for doing shadow work. And now that I'm kind of out in the light, um, that urgency is not there, you know, although, you know, I wasn't quite aware of what it was happening at the time, but there's not an urgency of being in my studio and I need to paint this, or, you know, it's, yeah, it's different. So it's
Yeah.
amazing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think now the time for me is to do exactly this, is to speak about it.
Yes. Excellent. Because I was going to say, you know, my next question was, so what's happening now for you creatively?
Creatively, again, this is new to me, being on Zoom and speaking about my journey. And I think it's exactly where I need to be right now, is sharing what I know and what I've learned. And I'm just following the golden thread. I do have a bit of a feeling to get back in my studio, and so it'll be interesting to see, you know, what's going on painting wise, and also I've been doing writing. You know, I was invited to do a piece for Raquel Bravo on her blog, and I enjoyed the writing, and I learn when I write, when I have to stop and think about what I'm writing, because she said choose an art piece and write about it. And it's amazing that there's always more to learn from that art piece, which is exactly what happened. And some other writing opportunities that are coming up, as you know.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm really enjoying writing, and
Excellent. And you also have a YouTube channel.
yes, I do. I do have a YouTube channel, and I have been creating actually slideshows and including written pieces in the slideshows of my artwork and writing that goes along with it. And I really enjoyed that one. If you go to my YouTube channel, especially the Joy Journal one, was really special. And I think there might be a book involved with that, because I think it would make a great little inspirational book with images and writing, because it's about nature and about how there's so much joy just to be found in nature. And it's simple and it's profound at the same time. So I'm thinking about that as well.
Wonderful. And your YouTube channel is Claudette Dean at YouTube.
Dean,
Right?
yeah, Claudette Dean. It's fairly new, but there are a couple of videos on there, and our Sunday service show is on there, Julie, which very, I think, inspirational as well. And yeah, I think it will grow. I think it will grow, and I'm just, like I say, feeling my way in this new territory. But it's time for me to help. I think to help.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, excellent. And then with respect to your website, do you want to share a little bit about that, how people can find you on there?
Well, the website is claudettedean.com, and it's just been updated. I've included my writing and my artwork, so you'll find pretty well everything there, and how to order prints, how to order my book. Yep, and I'm on Instagram at Claudette_Dean. I'm on the Ajatakasha app as well. And so, yes.
Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. Excellent. Well, Claudette, thank you so much for being on here, for being my first guest on my channel. It's very exciting. I just love this conversation. I'm sure there's a lot more we can say, but let's leave it there for now. And as always, for those of you who watch this, please feel free to ask questions or leave comments below. I always love to hear from everybody. With respect to me, you can find me on Instagram at Julie Hoyle Official. I'm also on the Aja Takasa app, and I'm leading a fantastic group on there, which is titled Awake Now What? And we have really in-depth conversations about all kinds of things to do with awakening, deepening into the self, shadow work, and much, much more. So please join us. It's free to download and free to join. And again, we're having these incredible conversations. So as always, everybody, thank you so, so much. Claudette, thank you again so much for joining me in this wonderful conversation.
My pleasure.
And yes, and remember everybody, subscribe to Claudette's YouTube channel. Go onto her website, check out her book, Smelling Roses. You will love it. And let's keep the conversation going. So keep shining bright, be well, be happy, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye, Julie. Bye-bye.
Hold on.